Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. For those of you new here, I'm Sam and I'm an instructional designer working in tech. So I've been working at different software companies for about 5 years now, but before that, I worked as a middle school teacher. When I made the transition from teaching to instructional design, I really had no idea how to create a resume for an instructional design role because most of the resumes I had written were for other teaching roles. So in this video, we're gonna look at my very first attempt at a resume that I used and created to apply to my first instructional design roles. I'll kind of talk you through what I was thinking at the time and then also talk you through how I would improve that resume now. I'll look at both the styling and the actual content. So the feedback that I'm going to kind of talk to you about is actual feedback that I got on my resume, mostly from my partner who had already been working in tech, but also from friends and family and people who had experience. I definitely needed to improve this resume, and I just want to say that as someone who didn't know how to create a different type of resume, I really appreciate all the help that they gave me. And I want to be that person for you just in case you're not sure how to go about creating your resume for an instructional design role when you've been in a teaching role. Also, I just want to say, if you find that any of the things that I'm talking about are on your resume, please don't take it personally. I'm just kind of giving you feedback based on what I've heard. These are actual pieces of feedback that I got on my resume, and they helped improve it significantly. For me personally, the best way that I learn and grow is if I just get completely roasted and people tear up my work and tell me that, help me improve it. And so I hope that this doesn't come across as mean. I just want it to be helpful for people who might not have someone that has experience in tech or as an instructional designer and help you get the information you need. Maybe you've done some of these on your resume and maybe it's an opportunity to fix it. And with that out of the way, if this video sounds exciting to you, please give it a thumbs up. And before we get started, don't forget to subscribe. All right, let's get into it. All right, y'all, this is my very first resume, okay? Let's just take a second, look at it. It's a lot. I know I don't need to defend my choices at the time, and I won't because this is truly what I thought worked, and I tried my best, and honestly, good for me for trying. But even with all these great intentions, I knew that after a while of not getting any interviews, I needed an intervention. So I asked my partner, some friends who were working in tech for advice on how to fix this resume. So let's look at styling. So the very first thing that I got roasted for was, you guessed it, this photo. I thought this was really cute and it was cutesy to have my picture there, but if I were to redo this, I would remove the photo. I got a lot of people saying, why did you do this? I thought it was a good idea. Next, I got kind of a bit of feedback about this whole color blocking. Remove color. So for the feedback for this, people were saying that it was giving I'm a middle school teacher and I love to make worksheets kind of vibes. And if I were to remake this now, yeah, I would remove the color and make it a simple white background. I'd also fix the colors of the headings. So I'd change the color of the headings because this color is terrible. Next, we'll look at fonts. This is also screaming that I love to make worksheets and fun cutesy pages for my kiddos. Nowadays, I like to stick to something simple like Arial or Times New Roman, so change to simple font. And I would use different font weights or different bolding to indicate my work experience and the title here, rather than a bunch of different fonts and colors. I would just use different weights. All right, now we can get, All right, so now we can get to the bottom here where it says skills. This might be controversial, but I don't think I need these little diamond things indicating my proficiency levels because there's really no metric to compare it to. I'd probably just erase these icons, and if I really wanted to, I would list my proficiency levels as like beginner, novice, expert, etc. All right, so now let's look at the content and editing of my resume. We'll start up here. Oh, I guess the one last thing I do want to say is I would not include my address. I would remove that. You could include your city, but having your personal address is definitely not necessary. Just you sometimes don't even need your phone number, but you want to have your email and you can have your city. All right, so now let's look at content. So if we look at this first entry on my resume, you can see that the first line of each of my job entries is unbulleted, which seems weird because they all follow the same tense structures as, the following statements. So I'd go ahead and add in a bullet point for both of those. Next, if you zoom in here, you can see that I made the mistake of having 2 bullet points, which is honestly just a careless error. And it could have been avoided if I had someone read through this thing before I applied with it. All right, let's keep going. Now, if we look at the actual role descriptions I've written, you can see that they're all worded as if I were applying to another teaching role versus a tech role. So this first one says, wrote innovative curriculum aligned to next generation science standards for the Science 6 department. Now, that would be an awesome wording if I were applying to another science teaching position or another teaching position in general. But since I'm applying for instructional design roles, I would remove any mention of specific standards. So I'll cross that out. I would also eliminate anything about the Science 6 department. And I would reword it to something more like designed and developed both online and in-person training that aligned with stakeholder needs. Even if the stakeholders are just the school board, they're still stakeholders, which is what we use as the word to describe the people who want these trainings or curriculum built. All right, so if we look at this next one, utilize creative lessons and rigorous instruction to achieve 80% content mastery, highest of the Science 6 department. First, we'll get rid of Science 6 department, and then I'd rephrase it to something like, utilized multiple learning modalities to create engaging content that resulted in 80% learner mastery and 20% decrease in learner requests, which really is just students ask less questions because they understood the content better, but it's written in a way that seems more aligned to what someone hiring for an instructional designer would want to see on a resume. So as you can see, this resume, my very first resume, I'm proud of it, honestly. I tried my best. I spent a long time working on this because I really wanted to try something new outside of teaching. Really thankful that I had a lot of feedback on this, and it really allowed me to make my resume a lot cleaner. But again, as I've said, these are just small changes that were suggested to me. I obviously implemented them, and it made a big difference. Alrighty, y'all, and that is it for this video. If you found it helpful or any of these tips helpful, please give this video a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe because I'll be creating a ton more videos on instructional design, transitioning into tech, and really just about what it's like working remote as an instructional designer. I hope y'all have a great rest of your day. Bye.